Hey guys, welcome back to 90 Feet from Home. I'm your host Ashley, and this week we're going to talk about some specific pitching accomplishments that you might hear about in baseball. So to start off, we're going to talk about perfect games. So a perfect game is one of the hardest pitching accomplishments to achieve. It basically means that a pitcher, or a combination of pitchers, although to date there has never been a combined perfect game, but that pitcher or combination of pitchers has to get through a complete 9-inning game without allowing a single base runner. And now that means there can be no hits, no walks, no hits by pitch, or no errors that would allow a batter to get to base and become a base runner. In simplest terms, it's 27 up and 27 down, meaning every single batter that comes to the plate is put down in order. And this can be accomplished either by strikeouts or by fielding out to an infielder or outfielder. So ground outs, fly outs, pop-ups, all of that applies as long as the batter is out at the end of their at-bat. Now, there's a specific perfect game that I want to mention just because it's a little bit of a weird one. And yes, I am a Detroit Tigers fan, so that is the reason I'm bringing it up. But it is kind of an unusual one, and I think it's good to know about because in discussions of perfect games, it may be brought up. And that's the Armando Galarraga perfect game that was pitched in Detroit. And it is not officially a perfect game. On the score, it is a 28-out game, so it's sometimes referred to as a 28-out perfect game because what happened is in the last batter of the 9th inning, a pitch was thrown to first base to beat out the runner who had hit the ball, and Jim Joyce, who was the first base umpire at the time, ruled that the batter was safe when he arrived at the bag.
The guy we've been waiting for all night.
Ground ball, right side, Cabrera will cut it off, Galarraga covers, he's out, no, he's safe, he is safe. He is safe at first base. And here comes Jim Leland. Oh my goodness.
Everybody in the stadium knew he was wrong. Everybody watching at home knew he was wrong. It was a very clearly an out, but when this game was played, video review plays weren't allowed in baseball. So they weren't able to contest the ruling at first base, and the runner was ruled safe, meaning they had to go one more batter into the game, and Galarraga got the out, and the game was over. But his perfect game and his no-hitter were both ruined in the process. Now, the next day, Jim Joyce came back to the stadium tearful and admitted that he'd watched the tape after the fact and knew he'd been wrong, and it basically admitted that it was supposed to have been a perfect game, but unfortunately there was nothing that could be done after the fact as the game was already in the books. So by all accounts, Galarraga did have a perfect game, but on the record, it's a 28-out regular game. No no-hitter, no perfect game, no accomplishments for Galarraga or the Tigers. It's just a really disappointing example of what happened prior to the ability to do those video replays. Because if that game were played today, they would have been able to contest that ruling at first base, they would have seen the video, it would have shown the runner was out, and Galarraga's perfect game would have been absolutely intact. So, a bit of a bummer. But that's what happens. So to date, there have been 23 perfect games thrown in MLB history, and that's based on the present weather-related rules that indicate if a game has to be called due to weather, and it's a perfect game or a no-hitter going up to that point, then it does not count as a perfect game or a no-hitter, even if no runs have scored and no runners have been allowed to the plate. In order for a game to count as a perfect game, it must go a complete 9 innings. The last perfect game was thrown in 2012 by Seattle Mariners pitcher Felix Hernandez. So just below a perfect game is another incredible pitching accomplishment referred to as a no-hitter, or sometimes referred to as a no-no. A no-hitter is similar to a perfect game, but it is slightly more forgiving in that while no hits are allowed, a batter may reach base on a hit by pitch, a walk, or a fielder's error, and the no-hitter will still remain intact because no hits have literally been collected. So it is a little bit easier to get a no-hitter because there are those little loopholes. Because a batter can still become a base runner based on walks or hit by pitch or errors, it is actually possible for a no-hitter to have a score for the losing team because that walked runner may eventually cross home plate and score a run. Those same weather rules do apply for a no-hitter, so a game cannot be qualified as a no-hitter unless it goes a complete 9 innings. And at present, there is only one MLB team who has not yet collected a no-hitter, and that is the San Diego Padres, and they're going on almost 50 years without having a single no-hitter pitched by any of their staff. So by the modern weather-related rules, there have been 299 no-hitters thrown in MLB history. The last was in May of 2018 by Seattle Mariners pitcher James Paxton, who is now a New York Yankee. And beneath a no-hitter in terms of pitching accomplishments is something referred to as a shutout. Shutout games are a lot more common, so we're not going to count the number of them. But in order for a pitcher or a combination of pitchers to collect a shutout game, the opposing team cannot score a single run in the entire game, meaning that their score would be 0 and the winning teams would be however many they'd run. But in order for it to be qualified as a shutout, the opposing team can have scored no run. And last but not least is one of my favorites, and one that doesn't come up that often and is not officially scored, so it's not like a no-hitter or a perfect game where they keep track of them the same kind of way or where it's a big deal accomplishment. It's more of kind of one of those fun ones that baseball fans have made up on their own. It doesn't actually count for anything, and that's a Maddux. Now, the Maddux is named after pitcher Greg Maddux, and that's for good reason because he has collected 13 of these games in his career. It stands to reason he would be the one who got the nod when it came to naming them. And for a pitcher to collect a Maddux, they must pitch a complete game shutout. Can't be combined. One pitcher has to do it all. A complete game shutout in under 100 pitches. This is actually surprisingly hard to do, so it's not that frequent an accomplishment, but it is a very interesting one to watch out for. So if you're ever watching a game and a pitcher has gone late into the game, 7th inning or so, and has a nice low pitch count, you can kind of start keeping your eye out for a Maddux because they are kind of fun to see happen, and it is a pretty rare accomplishment for a pitcher to be able to go through a complete game in fewer than 100 pitches. And so that is a perfect game, a no-hitter, a shutout, and a Maddux. Some of the cool pitching achievements that can be accomplished in a pitcher's career. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please go down to the comments and leave a message if you found this interesting. If maybe there are some other pitching terms that you've heard that you found interesting and would like to know more about. Remember that you can follow me on social media. I'm at 90 Feet From Home on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and you can always leave suggestions for videos there as well. I always try to make videos of anything that you guys find interesting, and I'm always open to suggestions. And with that in mind, please hit that subscribe button down below. And if you want to be alerted every time a new video comes out, which is every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, please hit that little bell next to the subscribe button and you'll get a notification. Thanks so much for coming out. This has been 90 Feet From Home Baseball Basics, and have a wonderful day. Bye.